All right, Dr. Ron England here, and this is Assessment Assistant Part 3. We're going to go and actually start building the models now, which is the next step that you would typically take. We've got the base application up and running, and the next thing we need to do is start building those data models. Before I build the data models, though, I'm going to go ahead and add, you can see down here in the right-hand corner, I've actually got Add to Source Control. I'm going to go ahead and get this set up into Source Control. So it really does make this very easy if you're in Visual Studio 2022. You simply do that, hit create and push, and voila, that's going to just go off and running. And notice that when I did that, it created the get attributes and the get ignore, those things. Now, when this all goes up to the source control, I will go to my GitHub account and I'll add the README file to the application. But right now, no need to do that. We can do that. We can work on this part next. So I'm going to be building the models. So I'd like to keep the models in their own location. If you're familiar with MVC, I mean, I can put the models anywhere, but if you're familiar with MVC, the idea here is simply to build the models, and the thing to do is actually put them into a folder. So I'm going to create a models folder, and a model is just simply a class. So I can go into the models folder, I go add, and then I add a class. And for each of the data models. Now, if you've been watching this all along, you know that right off the bat, I wrote a document where I defined the data models. So each individual one has good documentation for me to simply build from that. So all I have to do, and I will go over some of the things that you need to do along the route, but if you're familiar with that, I'm now going to create a new class, and I'm just going to start right at the very beginning and start working my way through the different data models. So I hit add. That will add so the first one was academic program. One of the things that I probably will need to do, because I'm going to be adding annotations in here, so I will probably need to add the references to those namespaces. But right now, everything is kind of the way I want it. And then when I go into the class, I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm looking at this and going, okay, an academic program will contain a title, and a description. So I will start with public string, string, and then the name of the academic, program, and then it'll be the get set. I can tab that over, and I'm just going to work my way through it. Now, the thing that I just did here is the academic program. I can't call it academic program. I actually meant to call it program title, because you can't have a property the same name as the class. So what you'll do here is you'll simply work your way through each of these. Program description, and this, once I start typing these, it kind of gets smart. Like, it even got program description in there, which I'm like, how did it even figure out that I was going to do that next? And then I'm going to have the one-to-n relationships. So I do have some one-to-n relationships, and I'm going to need to build those. I'm going to come back because I have to build those in two pieces. So what I have to do is I'm actually going to not take you through step by step as I do each of these, because you really just want to see the end of this. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to need to put in some annotations. So display name equals. And so here, I'm going to see if the quick actions actually pick up that I need to add that namespace. Yeah, sure enough, there you go. Using system component model data annotations. So I'm pretty sure it's not name of. Pretty sure it's name equals. Now, because when I actually want to display this in the interface, I don't want it to be program title as a single without a space there. I'm going to actually have it as program title. So I'm going to add a whole bunch of these different types of annotations that go with this, and there's actually multiple namespaces that go with getting all this done. You do notice that this is in green. Notice that it is a non-nullable property. So, the question that you're going to have to ask yourself of these probably want to keep program title from being null, but maybe the program description can be null. To make it so that its a value can be null, you just simply put the string with the question mark. You're going to define the data type, add that question mark, and that actually makes it a nullable property. So what I typically do when I'm building these is first I work my way through all the ones that are simply going to be the one-to-one relationship. So basically where there's one value for each of these. Now, one thing that's going to be universal with all of my data models is this concept called measurement period. And I'm going to make that a string. But the way this works is that we change these on an annual basis. But once it's set for that 1 year, it stays the same for that 1 year. And that actually refers to essentially every single data model that I have. Now, there's a way to deal with that. I could create an abstract class that would be everything could inherit from, where that abstract class has that measurement period set up. And in fact, it's interesting enough that I'm very tempted to give that a shot. Now, the reason for that is that when I start working with the identity user, the identity, basically in this case, the user, which is, by the way, a model, I am going to create a subclass of that, which is the application user. So if I see something in here that's common to every single one of the models that I have, and as I go through and I can actually look at those, I can say, well, you know what? It is universal. So I'm already doing something called abstraction. And abstraction is where you pull out common elements that you're trying to work from. So what we could do here is in data, we can go add class. And I don't know if this is going to actually work, I mean, the way I want it, but I'm going to call this class application assistant abstract. And the reason I'm calling it abstract is because it essentially will be an abstract class. And so in this class, I can create the public string, and I'm going to call this measurement period. And the one thing about the measurement period that will also be interesting is that it's going to be used by all of them. And that's okay. That can be as non-nullable, so we're good there. Now, I can define this as an abstract class, so it can't be instantiated. So the only thing that can happen is things can inherit from it. So if I save that, I go over to academic program, I can make it come from application assistant and application assistant abstract. Now I'm going to make sure that that's all in the same namespace, or I can always just do this. And let's see, why is it not letting me inherit from this? This is always like the troubleshooting. Okay, so assessment assistant models, and and this is why, because I put it in data, and that's not where I want it, by the way. I wanted to have it in the models too. So what I'm gonna so as I make a mistake like this, it's easy to say, okay, the reason I found that was because it's in a different namespace than the other one. So for one, I would like to have this in the models. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and paste it into the models. So now it's in the models. And I'm going to have to actually go in here, and I'm going to need to change the namespace also. So now when I go to academic program, that should go away, and it should all be cleared up. So there shouldn't be any more quick actions associated with that, because everything is good. So I save off, and I have to make that decision here, like measurement period. Do I need it to be nullable or non-nullable? That would be something that normally you would make when you're defining the models in your documentation. But the reality is you're going to find as you're coding these things are going to come to you. What I will do is I can go back into the original documentation and define that I'm going to put this into an abstract. But I think really if you're a programmer, you're going to find that this is a very common thing that you do. And the code itself for somebody who's a programmer documents this quite well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to build all of my data models, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show them to you. So this will be the end for this. I think you kind of got the point of the next step that's associated with this and some of the things that you can do as you're working your way through the programming. Thank you very much, and I'm going to, in part 4, you're going to get to see a little bit more of how these models all look when I'm done with them.